Advancing tobacco harm reduction through nicotine pouches. Review of the evidence from Snus. These are my disclosures. As a responsible manufacturer, Imperial Brands has developed a scientific assessment framework which supports evidence-based assessment of product safety and substantiates the tobacco harm reduction potential of our next-generation products. Our review today sits within this approach. A real-world example of tobacco harm reduction is the use of snus in Sweden. Snus is an oral smokeless tobacco product widely used in Sweden and Norway. It contains tobacco, but during use, tobacco is not burnt. Therefore, many of the harmful chemicals present in cigarette smoke are not produced. Public health bodies state that snus is between 95 and 99% less harmful than cigarettes. Additionally, Sweden has a lower incidence of lung cancer than other countries in Europe. Recently, nicotine pouches have emerged as a new category of oral nicotine products. They are very similar in format and use to snus, but distinct because they do not contain tobacco. Our research shows that the level of key harmful chemicals in our nicotine pouches products were reduced up to 99% compared with cigarette smoke, and this suggests that nicotine pouches have the potential to make a meaningful contribution to tobacco harm reduction. As a responsible manufacturer selling nicotine products, at Imperial Brands we decide to accelerate our understanding of nicotine pouches by assessing the growing research published since 2019 on these products, and then we compare it with the evidence available for an established tobacco harm reduction product such as Swedish snus. Research on chemical constituents indicates that nicotine pouches may result in reduced exposure to harmful chemicals and reduced cellular toxicity compared with cigarettes under laboratory conditions. As they do not contain tobacco, these reductions is reported to be greater than that observed for snus. Based on the evidence assessed, nicotine pouches may offer greater harm reduction potential for older smokers compared with snus. Clinical studies show that nicotine pouches deliver nicotine more slowly than cigarettes at levels comparable to snus. Delivery is influenced by nicotine content, pouch composition, and duration of use, but not flavor. Nicotine pouches also reduce craving, urge to smoke, withdrawal, while providing satisfaction and relief, and this suggests they may be a viable alternative for older smokers and snus users. Biomarker studies show that nicotine pouches users have substantially lower exposure to harmful constituents compared with cigarette smokers and also snus users, as well as favorable changes in certain disease-related biomarkers, with levels similar to those seen in individuals who have never used any other tobacco or nicotine products. In response to the growing research into the potential oral health effects of oral nicotine products, we reviewed also the available literature in this area. For snus, evidence shows no significant association with oral cancer, a reduction in adverse oral health conditions, and tooth staining when smokers switch to snus. For nicotine pouches, research suggests potentially greater improvements in oral health outcomes when switching from cigarettes or snus. However, evidence is still limited, and long-term evaluation of these outcomes is needed. Survey data from the EU, Sweden, and the US show that older use of nicotine pouches is slow but increasing as awareness grows. Nicotine pouches mainly appeal to older smokers and those with prior nicotine use. Then among youth, nicotine pouches interest and use remain low, with limited data indicating some growth in Baltic and Nordic countries. By comparison, among both adults and youth, snus use remains limited to Sweden. In conclusions, the findings from our review suggest that nicotine pouches may offer a greater tobacco harm reduction potential compared to cigarettes and even snus, and this potential could positively impact population-level health. Moving forward, it is necessary to regulate nicotine pouches as well as all the next-generation product category in a risk-proportionate fashion, with this process being driven by the weight of scientific evidence reflecting the relative scale. Moreover, responsible manufacturers and rigorous science have a key role in helping shape the regulatory framework. Imperial Brands is committed to advancing tobacco harm reduction science in support of data-driven, evidence-based, and proportionate regulation. Before closing, I'd like to thank everyone involved in this review. Thank you for your attention.